Hello, welcome to Fate Awakens, above table number 6. I am joined by a few cast members here from the actual show. I'm not on it, unfortunately. And we're going to talk about some above table stuff for characters, for players, and all that kind of stuff. I think we have an announcement first, though, right?
We do.
Yes.
Justin?
So I'm taking over for Neil here, a.k.a. Jethro. I want to remind everyone about Saturday, November 20th. That is Charleston Con in Charleston, South Carolina. It's beautiful. It's sunny. Probably going to be hot as hell. But we'll be inside for most of it. It's okay. We're going to have a table. We're going to be giving away stickers. We're going to be giving away shirts. We're going to have a bunch of character sheets that you can fill out, throw your handle on, and if you create an NPC, our DM will implement you into the story somehow. If you create a playable character and you are from the area or wish to fly or train or drive into the area, you can come and play in our lovely studio here as a playable character. You will join us at the table. Join Edmund, Remdil, Domik, everybody. You will join us at the table for a session and have a great time. Now, I want to remind you that it's Saturday, November 20th of this year, 2021. But I believe Joey has some other things to shout out.
That's right. I do have another announcement. Along those lines, if you are a fan of our show and you don't live in the Charleston area and can't make it to Charleston Con, or even if you do, we have a membership club as part of our YouTube page that you can join. It is $2.99 a month, which is not a whole lot of money. It's like a cup of coffee. And if you join our membership club, you are going to have access to cool badges on YouTube. You're going to have access to some special emojis of our characters, which you can use when you make comments. And there's a members-only chat that you can be a part of with all the other members. So if you're interested and you like our show and you want to support us, that's the best way to do it, is to join the membership club on our YouTube page, Fate Awakens, and show your support, and we'd really appreciate it.
And another thing to note, this is forever, right? Subscribe to our YouTube page. We have a TikTok page. We have a Reddit. We have a Facebook. Any social media platform you're on, you are welcome to join.
Yep.
We are sufficiently on the
That's
social.
right. We're on all the social webs. All right, back to you.
All right, thanks, guys. Thanks for the announcements. As a recap, we're going to be covering episodes 23 through 28. Kind of a nice bookend here, basically going from the first time that Edmund was at the Pillars.
Spoilers!
And ending just after the whole party goes to the Pillars together. So the first episode, 23, is basically half of it is the Edmund show.
Yeah.
Right? So how weird was that to do a show, like one of the sessions almost entirely by yourself? I mean, that was like 35 minutes of a 60-minute session.
Yeah, so I actually thoroughly enjoyed it. And
get that attention.
Not only because I like being Edmund so much, but also because the character of Desiree, as it was introduced, was super interesting, right? Like, so we've seen mythological creatures, and Edmund's seen elves and dwarves, like, very rarely in his life. But Desiree said, I've always known how to do magic. I've been alive a long time. My dad actually came to your library when like Edmund's grandfather or dad was there. Like, she's like, oh, you're from Aussie Ruin. You're Edmund Gaunt's son. And I'm like, wait, no, I'm Edmund Gaunt. Like, her family actually had ties. So for me, that was super interesting.
For sure.
And it made it easy to, as a player and in a character, kind of force myself into her life.
Sure. Yeah.
In her library.
And obviously we learn a lot.
Yeah. Well, as we go through these episodes, we'll learn that these one-on-ones for this group tend to be very enlightening for everybody, viewers included.
Mm-hmm.
So I did enjoy the one-on-one as well. I'm sure the viewers did.
Yeah.
Especially Desiree. Very interesting. And I'm sure it was nice for the DM to only have to play one character.
Yeah. Juggling all of us can be an issue.
Yeah.
Some more than others.
Yeah, it kept the narrative on track as opposed to get all 6 of you sometimes just kind of goes off the rails.
Popping in.
And we might have said this before, but I mean, it is especially cool, kind of as a player, to have that mechanic in there where when there are things that happen just with a certain character, like everyone literally leaves the room. So like, it's a little bit easier to like, you know, when you play your character and you're not supposed to know certain things, you literally don't know certain things. So I mean, it's kind of cool to when we come back in. I mean, we're standing outside and we're like, I wonder what's happening. Like we get more excited about the story and everything just by sheer fact that we don't know.
Sure.
And that makes it more fun for you as a character, too. Because you're like, I know something they don't. I remember, I think it was in these sessions we're talking about, I mentioned that I went to the pillars. I know I'm jumping ahead a little bit. And all 5 of the other people at the table were like,
huh?
Excuse me? Like, you went there? I'm sorry, I'm jumping ahead.
No, you're good. You're good.
Alex. Yeah.
It's all about jumping around, man. There's no set timetable for this. It's just convenient for my notes. That's all it is. So second half of that episode was kind of a shopping-esque episode. Kind of a couple split-offs. I know Rene and Remdil went to the fragrance vendor, right? Fragrance.
Yeah.
I went too.
I think it was me,
Yeah.
Rena, and
That's right. It was Domik.
Domik, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that was creepy.
That was
Super creepy. That vendor was super creepy.
It was a nice little twist for us to, you know, because it was like, oh, you know, fragrance, whatever, perfume, you know, vendor, and then you get in there and you realize, oh, this is actually like potions.
It was such a normal shop, and then it wasn't a normal shop at all. I was like, huh.
Yeah.
I don't know how to take this.
And I think everything was pretty much out of our price range too, if I remember correctly.
I think we got poisons and reverse poisons.
Yeah, you got a poison. I know. Yeah, Rena got a poison that she used later on in one of these episodes, which was pretty nice, especially low levels. But how interesting was it for you guys to see potions in this world where magic doesn't really exist, but you have these magic potions? So like, do you think that those were infused by the rift, or like were they created before, just out of kind of alchemical stuff?
I can say Thomas B as a person was super excited. It was like, that's crazy. This is like the first kind of potion thing we've seen at all. But Domik is like, oh, some kind of tonics. Most of it's probably a scam. I'll just get some antitoxin. Domik had no reason to believe any of that. So he was just like, it's just that's too much money. I have no reason to believe any of this is going to work. Like, there's just no concept of a potion store.
Mm-hmm.
So I was just like, this is just some perfume dealer that's trying to, you know, get a couple extra gold from people. So he's like, I'll just get the stuff I know. If anything else, I have spells for. But it sucks because there were some super cool things there.
I mean, go ahead.
I was going to say, I know my character wasn't there, but listening in, because we didn't actually leave the room for that portion. Listening in, hearing a potion shop described in such a different way, especially in a world that doesn't have magic, as a perfume shop,
makes sense.
Was 100% cool to me.
Yeah, very cool. Very cool. And, you know, I don't know if you remember, like, earlier in that episode, so, like, Bolgram had already been, like, kind of duped in that, like, he thought he was going to go see someone who was supposed to be the mayor, and then she ended up being this kind of, like, shady drug dealer, and then he gets kind of peer pressured into doing drugs, which kind of puts him out of it. So by the time he gets to this, like, perfume dealer who has these, like, magic perfume, like, he's a little bit over, you know, he's already kind of over magic to begin with, and then gets into this situation, and he's like, whatever, you know, if that's supposed to do something, that's cool, like, you know, whatever.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, he was still there for the lavender fragrance, though.
That's right.
It was
just
pretty
saying good. But yeah, it's interesting. I could see that encounter going way differently in a different, like, point of the story with a different combination of people. That could be, like, way a bigger deal. Like, we could have
may go back
deals, or like be like, hey, how do you do this? And we just ask questions. But you know, the cookie just kind of crumbled. We were just kind of off it for a couple different reasons. So we just kind of grabbed what we needed and kind of went on with our life. Which, you know, every single time you go in a store, it doesn't have to be a huge plot point.
Right.
but-
I've been interested. I would have been
It was
interested to see Edmund and
Yeah.
Jethro in there because
Yeah.
Edmund could have actually identified some of this stuff.
Yeah.
I
and
thought
kind of,
about
oh
it.
yeah, this is actually
One of
magic.
the, at the same
And then Jethro
time,
wanted to taste
at the same
Yeah.
time, it's
Mhm.
it's kind of hard playing a character versus playing me, right? Like, so I think all of us are pretty experienced here in D&D. So when a DM who's describing a world without magic says, "Hey, here's a potion of this,"
It's easy to take it for granted.
you go, I 100% know what that is, right? Like, me as a person, I know. And my character, who's very intelligent, very well read, very well known, would probably, in anybody else's campaign, also know what that is.
or at least be able to figure it
Like,
out.
rolling Arcana or intelligence in our campaign means almost nothing. You know what I mean? Like,
Yep.
There's just no basis for anything.
I mean, it's saying like one of us in real life sees a unicorn and we go, "Hey, that horse has a horn on its head. I think that's a unicorn," right? Like, it's mythology.
Yeah.
It's mythology to all of our characters, right? Like, and being well studied in mythology doesn't make Edmund an expert. You know what I mean? By any means at all. So when you hear this perfume makes you bigger, no matter how studied you are, if Albert Einstein heard someone say, "This perfume makes you bigger," they still wouldn't believe it. Right? Like, Albert Einstein
Yep.
would never believe that a perfume made you bigger or smaller or stronger or fucking anything.
Well, I guess it kind of depends on kind of perfume, right? What kind of bigger you're talking about.
I made that for a while.
Well, but my point is,
But yeah.
the concept,
Yeah,
the
absolutely.
concept
Once
of magic doesn't exist to any of us
Yep.
until we describe it. So even if Edward were in that perfume shop, I don't think he'd go, "Hey, I'm gonna use my spell identify," right? Like, Justin might say that,
Right.
but Edmund would go, "These people are trying to sell you out of your money," right? Like, they're trying to scam you.
Right. By the same token there, that kind of explains the mindset of Remdil as he takes, and everybody at the table knows, and the viewers know this, by the way, spoilers, takes that sword and does the deal with Avaritia, right?
Oh,
It's some kind of, Bolgram talked about it in the following episode. I think it's a children's tale, right?
Right.
Like, it's
It's
mythology. So,
Yep.
okay, well, she can't actually take my soul, so give me the damn sword. I want to talk to my mom.
Yeah,
right?
right.
So that kind of explains it. That was such an interesting one-on-one. Again, another one-on-one with you and Jethro.
Yeah,
And
so
then-
I believe that's like the second or third one with him.
Yeah.
Leading up to this, and Remdil's, I've made numerous, comments of, Arena got extremely strong, and we kind of went blow for blow, and that was cool. And then all of a sudden, everybody else started spitting magic out of their hands and whatnot. And I was like, well, okay, well, I have to close the distance with someone. How am I going to do that if Edmund wants to hit me from 120 feet away with chromatic orb or whatever?
Sure.
It's like, all right, well, that sucks. Remdil feels a little outclassed here, and I made a couple comments here and there, like, well, I just got stronger. It's not that big of a deal. I can swing a sword a little better, whatever. And then finally, I decided as Remdil, just like, hey Jethro, like, what do I have to do? Because I'm not gonna
do.
I'm not gonna talk to people. Remdil's not the one to go and
He's not
try
going
to
to go
gather.
study books
Right.
with
He's
Edmund.
not gonna
Yeah.
gather crowds and be like, yes, listen to me, follow this. This is what it is meant to be, and that's just not how it's gonna go. How can we make this work? And then as soon as I said that, I think everything flipped, and it was no longer Jethro.
So
at that
what
point.
made Remdil choose Jethro instead of, say, Domik? You've been
So
traveling together
I-
about the same amount of time.
Yeah.
They both do magic without a spell book. Domik doesn't talk to a bunch of crowds.
I feel
Or
like
anything. He's
I-
not a big proselytizer. Just ask the question.
I want to
Yeah.
hear what
Yeah.
you're about to say.
I
to
would
this.
never dream of putting words or emotions in Remdil's mouth.
Or anything. Really.
Or
This is
anything.
interesting.
Anyway,
This is
but
interesting.
I think Domik makes it very clear with the way he talks and the way he acts that there's like a certain responsibility, or at least a little bit of like, it's what he gets is not free, and it doesn't cost me a soul, but like just everything Jethro does. Everything Jethro does makes you want to believe in Jethro, whether for better or for worse. And I think Domik's whole era is just like aura is the word I'm looking for. It's just like you got to take the good with the bad. And Jethro's like, oh, over here, it's all a party. Just do it. It's real easy. Just sign right here. And I don't think there's much like competition as far as like that's what we said. Like Remdil's like not one to go out and like try to make a strong connect. Yeah, Jethro's like Remdil's like just hit me with what you got. Let's see what we got.
Yeah, and I mean that kind of leads into the whole getting involved with Ruby from the get-go. She's like, oh, you just won that fight, come have dinner with me. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, that just happened.
Like, it's just Remdil. He's like, fine, it's a dinner, fancy boat, whatever. And then all of a sudden, boom, I have to do something kind of bad. And then kill the governor, whatever, we move on. And then all of a sudden, it's like everybody has magic. Jethro's spouting out, like, she can do this, she can do that, you can have whatever you want, you just got to do this, you just got to do that. Remdil's like, that doesn't sound too bad.
Yeah.
Jethro, what is this about? And then when Jethro changes and we start talking, and she's like, well, I don't, how do I compete with the Edmund and the Jethro throwing magic? How can I be useful to the group and still like be a frontline? That was the whole whole goal.
As a character, though, so like, I mean, in a world where magic doesn't exist, someone like Remdil, big, strong, overpowering, weight-wise, height-wise, muscle-wise, like, I mean, he is the jock of this world, but not only the jock, but like the champion gladiator. You know what I mean? Like, this dude goes around fighting people for money. So when an 80-year-old man shows up and throw fucking fireballs, it is shocking.
It makes you question.
But I'm saying, also at the same time, he's changed his mindset. Like, magic introduced into this world has changed his mindset to go, power doesn't mean muscle strength or physical strength. Like, Remdil's character is going through almost not an awakening necessarily, but a mind shift of going, power comes from the mind and the body now. You know what I mean? Like, it's still based off his desire to be powerful. That's why he's going maybe towards Jethro instead of Domik or me or Edmund, right? Like, he goes, hey, my mind's not as strong. If I go towards Edmund, I'll be fucking confused, probably.
Sure.
Remdil, the character, right? Remdil going towards Domik may go, I'm not that religious. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, and it makes sense. He wants to be a little flashy. Wants to be the sales pitch worked basically.
Yeah, I think.
Right?
Yeah,
I think the sales pitch worked. That's a great way to put it.
I think the long and short of that answer is gonna boil down to intelligence versus wisdom versus a whole lot of charisma. He just makes a better deal on paper until you read the fine print. And Remdil didn't read the fine print, so
he's not going to.
There you go.
Well, and that's one thing we've done as players, I think, is play our character sheets well, right? Like is charismatic as any of us are in real life, or wise, fucking strong, whatever. Like, we're not really doing that, right? Like, Edmund is not good with words, right? Like, you saw with Arena, you saw with Draw, you saw with other people. Like, he's not willing to open up to people about his feelings. He's kind of crass when he's pissed off. Like, he's not charismatic really at all. I'm just the book guy. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, that's true. So
I think it's interesting that we all play.
One other thing about that encounter that got me is the parentage thing, right? That's the second time in this campaign somebody's been significantly affected by trying to find their family.
Yep.
Right? Your parents have to be dead, right? Edmund's.
My parents are
Not in real life.
Super dead.
Yeah.
You
My
know.
parents are super dead. I'm
So,
like,
super dead.
I'm like 80 years old.
Yeah,
so,
like
yeah.
Domik. we don't have
I'm
anything
a
to
straight human.
I don't think
find
it's come up
from.
yet.
I am
It hasn't
from
come up?
way north.
Yeah, so we don't know.
It's
And then-
it's there. My parents are interesting. That's
What
not
are
gonna
half
happen.
orcs or whatever long lives? Like
It's about the same as
About
people.
the same?
Yeah,
Okay,
I mean,
so-
Well, we don't know what
we don't know
his-
what your family
Yeah,
situation is.
no one's ever taken me aside and asked
You
my
know, you don't
backstory
know
or
if
anything,
if
so,
you've
you
got
know,
like a
it's
wife
just
and a
one of
kid back home or whatever. Like
That's
we don't actually
You know.
know any of that. We haven't talked. He said he was trying to save his village.
Yeah.
So we don't know any about his family heritage.
that's interesting to me, given the characters have now had, and it goes on to talk about it a little bit, but for example, you and at least I know Jethro know that two characters have been impacted that way with family
Yeah.
to not know more about the party's families. You know, that's an interesting point
We shall see.
to me. at
Well, we
least.
know he's from Snook's village.
Right,
or
exactly.
whatever.
Snook's Quay.
Yeah,
Snook's
Snook's
It's
Quay.
quick.
We know.
It's funny every time.
Still
We actually don't know very much about each other's backgrounds. When Drawal was still here, obviously,
Right.
Edmund grew up with Drawal and his father.
And Rene's backstory has kind of come out a little more.
Arene,
Yeah.
we know, was dropped off at the monastery.
Right. So she could have parents
Yeah.
anywhere.
She could have parents anywhere. She was raised by
Siblings, yeah.
not only Osas, who we hate, but multiple other monks throughout her time there, and has come to Aussie Ruin with Edmund and all that. Like, her, Drawl, and Edmund were all very close growing up.
So I mean, with having to do with parentage, I mean, I think that y'all are going to run into that again. It might become a theme of this campaign, honestly, with the amount of parentage and lineage and maybe even kids that we haven't even scratched the surface
Yeah,
of.
and I
So-
think.
I mean, as far as kids go, I mean, I have Tybalt, who is my child,
Sure.
and he also has a child. So, I mean, as far as kids go, that's one thing. But if any of the people watching have seen some of our one-shots, there have been sprinkles of Edmund Gaunt, there have been sprinkles of Aussie Ruin, there's been sprinkles of Vaftion in our one-shots and guest appearances by our lineage in those one-shots.
Sure.
Yeah.
A little bit
So,
of time.
by the way, if you want prequel shit, go watch the
Yeah,
one-shots.
Yeah.
Because you're missing parts of the story that haven't happened. Or that have already happened, but haven't
Yeah. Extra
appeared
flavor.
yet.
Yeah.
Extra flavor. Extra flavor.
Tiny one.
Yeah.
So,
What I was going to say earlier is I think as soon as the three of us hit Aussie Ruin, like it's been, oh shit, from that night on. And it's kind of been like, hey, the six of us, and then Draw left, and then we met Bolgram, and it's like, all right, now the six of us again are still trying to figure all this out. We have a common goal. We've been kind of tunnel vision on like, let's find these answers, let's find these answers, let's find these answers. And then these little sprinkles of family come up, or, maybe a little Arene and Jethro seem to be getting along rather well for some reason. And then
for
like,
some reason.
Weird.
What the fuck is that
weird.
about?
Yeah.
What
things
is
like
that
that have been
about?
happening, and it's just like I think it adds a little bit, and I think
I wonder what it does to your head if someone casts friends on you like every day for
Become, like,
your,
indoctrinated to
yeah, just-
someone?
yeah, right. I just think at one point, like, it's either a lot of these things are going to come up all at once because we're going to be faced with something enormous, or B, more sprinkles are going to come in and we're all going to build an even bigger bond as characters.
Me
and
and you
players,
are
so.
from the relatively same region. I traveled like a day, and then I got to Snook's
Yeah,
Quay,
you were
so-
further north than my village. Yes.
Yeah.
But only
we're-
still a day away.
Yeah, way closer to like we
That was a
traveled
day
weeks
away
to get to
before
Austin.
magic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I'm
But
saying.
we traveled like weeks to get to Austin Room, and it was like a day to get to your place. So
Yeah, I guess that's one of the things you got to just trust in your DM, right? Because like you got to trust that they've got some arcs set up, right? So you've got like one big narrative arc, and you have a little bit of downtime, so you can explore some of that. Whereas right now, it's foot on the gas, all go, right?
Yeah.
To try and figure these things out. You don't have time to sit there and be like, oh well, Arene, do you want to go find your family?
yeah,
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
we got to do these riffs. Like,
Honestly, I
You
kind of
know?
hope I wrote a lot of backstory stuff and I sent it to Chris and I promptly forgot about it. And I hope it never comes back up because I hope
He'll drop a name and you'll be like, who? You'll be like,
It's your mom.
that's your mom.
No, like here's the thing though. I said it a couple times. I have like noble blood. I have a noble from that specific place, which means
yeah.
my family has no reason to be anywhere other than that place.
Right.
So if I
Right.
get any word of that of anyone else outside of my family has made it to wherever the hell we are at this point, I don't even know anymore. That means something's gone terribly wrong, and I don't want it. So, right now, Domik is focused on what he's doing, and anything that is outside, it would just be a distraction. So, I'm okay with it at the moment.
Yeah, I feel like for most of our backstories, as far as they've gone, we all went pretty in depth with Chris. I think he's taken that into account, and for the most part, for the future, hopefully,
Yeah.
we remember at least the people closest to us, right?
Sure.
Like I remember Tybalt, like I remember
Yeah, I mean-
Helena, like I remember not all 13 of my orphans, but I remember the oldest and the youngest,
Razim.
like, and of course Razim. But like, I feel like
Who's Razim?
remembering your backstory, if when you make it as a player in any campaign, not only one that's being videoed, but any campaign, you're hoping that it was important enough for it to come back around, right? Like you want your DM every time to tie your character into the world.
And it's almost, I'm sure most of us have DM'd in the past. Or
We all have, I
hopefully
think, yeah.
in the future. But when your player, at least from my perspective, if your player gives you all this information, you're like, free content.
Yeah, it's
Like,
free.
I didn't have to make-
I don't have to come up with it.
Like it's just right here. They wrote
all
it.
I got to do
Like,
is tie this string to that string, and I'm
Yeah.
done. There's
Yeah.
content.
So
It's really
me
nice.
personally, I think it helps out with
And it's usually the last
adding
thing
in
you
little
get.
tidbits and towns if we happen to make it to the town you say you're from when
Yeah.
you're given a list of towns,
Sure.
whatever it may be. So
Yeah.
I think it's the more as a player you write in your background, and it could be fairly simple. I had to make Remdil's very simple because I'm trying to min-max this guy.
He's a simple
Spoilers, but so he's like a very simple, like grew up fighting, lost his mom, whatever. Came up later. Cool.
Yeah.
There's his tie, and then so as a player, the more you write for a backstory, I think it helps filter or sprinkle in.
And I would also say that, it's really nice to have these things that our characters really care about, and family is one of those big things we've seen as a theme kind of amongst all of us. Even maybe individually, maybe not shared amongst one another, but at least the audience knows and can see that. And I think as a DM, it's really nice to like, all right, like the things that you care the most about are the things that are going to motivate you the most. So like if we ever need a push in one direction or another, that's a nice little lever you can pull if you've got all of that content from characters.
Yeah, for sure.
Backstory.
Well, and that's one thing I know for Edmund that I wanted to be a thing, right? Like, he's a librarian because he's a wizard, right? But you didn't know that when we first started, But I made him a librarian because he would eventually be a wizard, love books, intelligence, all that. But I made him a part of an orphanage because I knew I wanted to be close to Draw and Arena. And we did pre-sessions and all that. Like, I wanted family to not mean blood. And that would also help me and us mix with new people.
Sure.
Right? So when Draw left, obviously, Edmund was in a very bad place.
Sure.
But out of love, right? Like out of care. And I think that makes it more interesting for the viewers too, as far as his motivation is that as soon as he meets someone and cares about them, they're immediately family. Right? Immediately. And he gives it away probably too easily. And then when they leave, he's too hurt by it.
Sure.
Like
So-
it's not only a strength, but it's also a weakness.
I guess to that end, what does he think about Mirror's reflection? The tabaxi from the guild hall.
So I wouldn't say Mirror's reflection is met that kind of orphanage family like
Sure, he's found his spot
connection yet. But Edmund in general makes friends easily, and cares about them easily. Edmund, 100%, if Mirror's Reflection was on the street getting attacked, would step in.
Sure.
Right? Like, without a doubt, he would defend him. He would offer him a drink. He would offer him a bed. Like, Edmund is too kind to people that have been kind to him.
Sure.
You're so different as a whole party.
As a whole party, yeah.
I was just making connections. And
Now,
everyone's
I
brain
wouldn't,
space.
I wouldn't consider him family yet.
Right.
But having one meeting that was mutually exclusively good, Edmund would take care of him as he would a stray cat, right? Like,
Sure.
not to say he's a
that's
stray
racist.
cat, but like,
I didn't say it.
That's racist.
but like he's welcoming to everyone, and would die for most people.
So what would cause somebody to fall out of that family tree then? Would, say, drug dealing do it? Because
No.
I think one of your party members is close.
Well, and see, here's the thing.
We all make mistakes.
Edmund takes on the disappointment role 100%.
I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed.
But he still loves you. He'd still die for you. He'd still do all that, right? Like Remdil,
Are we still
Arena,
alive?
Draw left him. Arena is killing people and joining a mercenary guild.
Jethro's killing hobos in the street.
It-
No. Don't even mention Jethro. Jethro, Remdil, and Domik are completely due to him, and he's already committed to them.
The downside is you
Right, like,
take everything so
I haven't
personally,
even
though.
known
Yeah.
them long enough for them to disappoint me.
Mhm.
But he is so interested in people and what makes them tick. Not only that, but he cares about people. He doesn't want to see anyone die. I don't know if anyone who's been paying attention and has watched every episode knows. Edmund has never killed anyone. Edmund has never
You lit a boat on fire once.
Edmund has never done the killing blow
They'll
to
probably
any
survive.
person.
Brag about it. I mean, it's true.
He's not interested in that sort of thing. If there is a chance for you to become a good person, he will give it to you. And if you wish to become a bad person, he will let you do that of your own volition.
That's fair.
But he won't stop someone, as we saw with the governor.
Sure.
We saw Remdil and Arena kind of handle that themselves. Like, he won't stop the bad, but he won't commit it himself, I guess.
So, Domik, what's your take? Or what's Domik's take, I guess, on the whole drug dealing, I guess you don't technically know about
I don't
the murdery
know
bits?
about that bit. I know very little about the drug bits. I know what I identified, and like,
And you did confiscate some of it.
yeah, so some of it was like, I know what some of this is used for, but what were you gonna use it for? It's Jethro, man. Jethro's gonna Jethro. I said it once. I'll say it again. I don't have the motivation of family. I don't think Domik really sees everyone here as like, oh, this is my newfound family. I have to protect everyone. I have to protect everyone because the world's gonna explode if we don't. And it's like sometimes you got to deal with dumbassery, and I think Domik's like that was probably the strictest I could have been to deal with that dumbassery at the moment without causing a scene and causing a rift in cohesion in a party problem. Take what he doesn't know because he's literally going to kill himself. And I also think Domik at this point is saying that Jethro is starting to demonstrate some like very self-destructive behaviors, like more so than he normally does.
Right.
Well, when your soul is owned by a demon, I mean that tends to happen.
Yeah, but at least for a while he was like holding it together so
Yeah.
where you can pretend
Right.
that it's just normal culty stuff. But now he's like, okay, that's like actively dangerous. You just passed out, like he was just gone. So
That kind of leads us into one of the other themes of this whole campaign is the one-on-ones again. We had a one-on-one with Domik and Bolgram
yeah,
that was very enlightening.
Oh, I haven't actually. I don't know anything
It's
about
very
that.
enlightening.
So,
Yeah.
should I leave?
I might have to earmuff
I mean,
this
it's
one.
it's up to you guys.
I still
Depends on-
don't know about that, and we're weeks ahead.
Yeah.
By the way, like we are weeks
Yeah, we
ahead.
can talk about
So
it.
I
don't
will,
care. It was-
I will
Depends.
honestly say,
Yeah.
if I were to watch these episodes at home to kind of catch back up, if it's a one-on-one that I'm not involved in, I actually mute and like open another tab, as
No.
most people do.
I have never ever, and I want the viewers to know this too. None of us watch one-on-ones, even after they're aired. Like we do not. We leave the room. We
very
never
serious
watch them
matter.
on YouTube. We do not know anything if it's a one-on-one.
So if we're going to talk about that, it's up to you
We
guys.
should leave. I
It's
don't
up to
know
you guys.
anything about it.
It's up to
Okay,
you.
let's do it.
What do you think is best?
I'm not
We're
interested.
gonna step
Alright.
out for a second.
All right, so just a quick little aside here with just Bolgram and Domik, since you guys had a one-on-one that was very enlightening. Domik's, both their views on magic and religion are very interesting. So who wants to do it first?
I can go.
Yeah,
I mean,
all right.
you know, Bolgram, when I created this character, I knew I had the foresight, obviously, of knowing that I was bringing a character into a world with no magic. And when I was thinking about what to create, I thought, you know, what would be really cool. I like the idea of playing with wild magic. I like the concept of like bringing in a character that doesn't really know anything about magic, and so Bolgram comes from a place where like magic isn't a thing, which everybody in this world was like that, you know, a few weeks ago, essentially. Religion, you know, I wanted to put a little bit different twist on religion as well, because I think a lot of characters think, okay, if you're religious, you're a cleric and you have a deity and boom, boom, boom. And it doesn't always have to be that way. It can be a little more nuanced than that. And I think that like the way I envision it is like Bolgram's tribe, like obviously like knows that, like okay, the gods at some point were real. Probably we still pray to them on occasion because of, you know, more of like superstition than anything else. You know, magic kind of scares him. I mean, if you've seen that, like, you know, this is not something he's into. He actually thinks that magic is the problem that's causing all this chaos, and in some ways it's true. And he's kind of wanting to stop all of that from happening, but at a certain point, you can't keep your head buried in the sand and pretend like it's not a big deal and it's not going to do anything. And so, and you don't have to eventually, maybe not embrace it, but at least respect it. And so I think he respects that, like, you know, Domik is a religious guy and isn't kind of, you know, he's not flashy with all the magic and everything. He's mostly like healing people and like maybe some glyphs show up on the ground or whatnot. But
Very chill cleric.
yeah, but religion, you know, is just something that, like, you know, oh yeah, he's a religious person. I've met religious people before. They don't scare me. They're a little, you know, they're a little intense about what they believe, but, you know, that's, you know, it's whatever. So I think of everybody in the group besides maybe Remdil, I think that Domik is the most approachable one for Bolgram if he wanted to kind of like talk with someone about stuff.
Sure.
And the thing on the other side, was it Domik that initiated that conversation? I think it was.
Yeah, we were just waiting around for something, and we are like, I just gotta go. Let's go do something.
Yeah, Domik just saw, I blanked on her name, Bolgram for a second, as this is just something, you know, I'm familiar with the way the people of my town sees Avaya, but you like dropped like a couple different gods like all at once and was like, yeah, this name, this name, this name, and I was like, I vaguely recognize all of those, and I think it kind of clicked that, like, my notion of not even just divine magic, but like religion in general is like, there's almost like a tribal twist on it too. Like you said, it's superstition. It's the same gods, it's the same ideas, but it's like in a twist of, you know, these are the appeasements that we do to the gods, so they don't, I don't know, take our children in the night and stuff, you know.
Right.
And it's very interesting that it's the same entities, but looked at in different ways. And he wanted to use that conversation as like really to dig into your character a bit, because you were pretty standoffish in the beginning, but I think you also made it pretty clear that you wanted, at least maybe not to stop all magic, but to fix the problem that magic was essentially causing, to the best of our knowledge at least.
Yeah, and it's caused problems for everyone at the table, obviously.
Everyone.
You know, and the story begins with it terrorizing an entire town. So when you see that Bolgram's, a little bit of his backstory is that his town also got terrorized by these these big, rifts in the sky. It makes sense that, he would be a little bit wary of anybody or anything that might be causing those things to happen. That's kind of very one-track mind. We got to find whoever's doing this and stop them. And so then we have this conversation about
Avaricia.
about gods and things.
That's why we're here.
When I made the character, I asked DM Chris. I said, my character knows about gods. Can I get a list of the gods in this world? And I just picked a couple, and that I felt like from my character's backstory, he might have heard stories about as a kid. And so I was like, okay, the god of war, that's going to be a big deal for the orcs. The one about maybe not chaos, but of chance, right? And it's so you think about going hunting, right? As a hunting party, sometimes you catch your prey, sometimes you don't, right? And then I was thinking okay, well, what would be a cool fun ghost story that parents would tell their kids to help them behave? And I was like, man, this one right here, Avaricia, would be really cool. She's actually kind of dark and scary, and so I just kind of picked it up. And I just dropped it, just knowing I knew as a person that Avaricia was a big part of the story, but my character was just Avaricia, she steals your soul if you it's a ghost story. But no one else at the table really knows a whole lot about Avaricia except for Jethro, so that was kind of fun to drop a little bit of knowledge, just and little really offhanded too, because it's my character, sure, she's a ghost story, just all these other things. I'm sure the gods are real at some point, but it's not real, right?
Yeah. As a quick side note, because we don't watch these episodes and we're pretty much in the dark, both Domik and myself was fully under the impression that when Neil first dropped the name Avaricia, that he just picked it up out of the blue. Jethro, not Neil. Because my god's name is Avaya, and for all of the session zeros and most of the early episodes, I was like, "What's your god's name? Give me your name of the thing you worship." And he was like, It's the one god. It doesn't have a name."
And then he dropped
that's your god, and he just refused to name it. And then all of a sudden he was like Avaricia, and I was like, "That's mine, but you added some stuff in the middle."
Right, yeah.
So both of us.
Right.
It was
pretty cool.
Yeah.
But then it leads into a discussion about okay, because I remember this, and we haven't really acted on it yet, even to this point in the story, because we're a few weeks ahead. We're recording these after the fact, but
Yep.
we talked about Jethro seems to be going down this dark path, and you mentioned that Avaricia, this scary monster from childhood stories, actually might be real, and actually Jethro might be doing some stuff with it.
Devil? Question mark?
Yeah, maybe
I don't know.
maybe we have
infernal to me, but
a devil worshiper in our midst, which in and of itself isn't that big of a deal. But we had the conversation about okay, if things start to get real bad with Jethro,
Right.
what are you willing to do?
Well, I think even that
Keep 'em in
conversation, you mentioned that the fact that you're a devil worshiper wouldn't bother me until it starts affecting our goal negatively, right?
Right.
If you can accomplish what we need to accomplish, Bolgram seems to be on board to saying, okay, it's a necessary evil at this point.
yeah. And that kind of goes back to the drugs thing. It's if you're willing to hurt yourself to this extent for no reason, or seemingly no reason, Domik didn't see a reason for him to jump into that. How much are you willing to hurt the party, the cohesion?
Right.
It's all the mission with Domik. So I'm willing to ignore a lot. Domik has ignored a lot that he's passively noticed, but it feels like it's coming to a head where he's going to have an actual. I don't know if it's going to be a 1v1 or a whole party thing, but
at least the viewers know, and no one else at the table knows this because they're out of the room. But if Domik gives the signal that Jethro's out of control and we gotta stop him, all he has to do is give me the head nod, and we're already on the same page about all right, let's do it. There doesn't need to be a discussion. We've already had that pre-discussion about if he becomes bad news, we'll take care of it.
And honestly, that's a big weight on my shoulders because spellcaster for spellcaster, it's up in the air. Spellcaster plus mage slayer and all those things you do is crazy.
Yeah.
So it's good to have you in my back pocket.
Not to say that and this is important to say for the viewers, it's never a good idea for players within the same party to try to battle each other or take each other out or work actively against each other. We're just putting a little bit of flavor in it in terms of our characters would be prepared if gets possessed,
Yeah.
or if he's out of his mind or element, that we would have to do something to keep him restrained. Maybe not like take him out.
You want to try to make the party dynamic work, but also you got to keep an eye on like what's the line you're willing to cross.
Right.
Don't want to make your character act out of character because you don't want to be the nail that stands out.
Yeah, that's a fine line to walk. Between keeping a verbal altercation, right?
Right.
Because I can't say altercation, but it's.
If someone's
a whole nother
restrained,
battle, right?
you need someone with a lot of strength.
Yeah, there's no lack of conflict
So.
in here. There's been a couple times characters almost get
That's true. Yeah.
Yep.
That's true.
So
Well, I love that one-on-one. Let's bring the other guys back in real quick.
yeah.
Welcome, guys, back to the table. The one-on-one discussion was interesting. I'm sure when that actually does crop up, y'all will be very surprised, I think.
We spent most
I
of our
hope so.
time trying to decide what they were talking about.
Yeah, yeah, we did.
So while they were having their one-on-one, Edmund, you actually were in the Guildhall libraries. Edmund's favorite haunts are libraries, right?
Yes.
Mending books and writing maps or transcribing maps, anyway.
Yeah, so I one thing Edmund's obviously always been interested in was libraries, right? You knew that from the beginning. So finding a town that had a
Finally.
reliable place of books was somewhat of an adventure in itself. The Guildhall of the Ruby Guild actually had, as well as the ship, she had a personal collection, sure, but the Guildhall actually had a collection of things that would work for us, right? So going through her entire reservoir of books was great for Edmund. And spending a whole day there, character-wise, isn't interesting necessarily for the characters or the viewers to watch. So it's easy to fast forward through Edmund's
kind of hand wave it.
kind of
do a
best
montage.
best skill,
Living his best
right?
life
Like
in a
you're
lab.
like, all right, now I'm gonna read every book in a library, and they're like, all right, film the whole
Film the
thing,
whole- yeah.
you know,
Yeah,
like.
yeah.
Page 1.
So
Intro to
one thing,
environmental sciences.
one thing Chris, our DM, has done a very good job of doing is giving me anywhere from 2 to like 10 pages
Mhm.
of description of books. So basically, it'll be the title of a book and then a paragraph of loosely what it's about. Now, and he'll throw a lot of red herrings in there as well, right? So he'll give me anywhere from 2 to 10 pages of books that may or may not be relevant to the story. He's like, this is what you did today.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? And so I have to actually, as a real person, Justin Marcel,
as a human man.
read through all of this shit and decipher it and say, is this relevant to the story? Or are these just random books that he decided to make up passages?
Your character has keen mind, but Justin can't remember all of the books that are related to
right,
him.
exactly. It's like my character has keen mind. So it's funny looking forward, and this is something he's done already, which maybe you do or maybe you don't know about. I don't know if you guys remember, he gave me a kind of packet of papers.
Yeah, I think we talked about
in
that in the last
in
table.
episode like 1 or 2.
Yeah.
He gave me a list of books that were in my library at Edmund Gaunt's library in Aussie Room. Today,
How about that?
today,
How many days later?
I want to let you guys know it's July 20th. We're far many episodes ahead of what you will see when this airs. I have learned stuff today that is now relevant from that original episode 1, episode 2 packet he gave me.
Sure. I mean, that's a sign of good planning, right?
It is a sign of good
Yeah.
planning, and I just want to say you guys should be pumped. The fact that he is thinking that far ahead
Right.
makes me as a player excited.
Yeah, now if you just get the characters to like actually move faster on the actual narrative, right? As opposed to
Yeah.
like, for example, getting drunk in the doorway of the tavern and falling asleep
Well,
It all
We were-
happens.
because they got trained into a
Oh,
Yeah.
drinking game.
is
That's
that
right.
how y'all's one-on-one?
we
ended?
have to actually get powerful enough to deal with anything.
That's true.
Yeah. that's my issue is that like not issue necessarily, but I'm still in the learning stage. Edmund's 80 years old. He's still in the learning stage.
Yeah.
He's still like a child. He wants
Yeah.
to absorb, you know.
So-
That's a big fault of his.
So after all that, you finally take them. Edmund finally takes the whole group back to Desiree's mansion,
Right.
Oh yeah.
and then you proceed to spend an hour showing off your magic to Desiree.
I don't like she asked for it.
Which was
Which
another,
is-
which is another point of Remdil being like, "What the hell, guys?" Like,
right.
Like in this world, it is interesting, and we've talked about it several times. I think of every above table that's come up because the setting is so unique with regards to magic. But you know, you've got Irene running up a tree or whatever she did, right, or doing a jump for 40 feet in the air or whatever it was, and
Dope monk shit.
yeah, dope monk shit,
That's,
right?
that's, the,
Well,
that's,
Well, and
that's,
this-
that's what kids are calling
your
it.
coin. That's
That's what
your
kids are
coin
calling it.
phase.
This is the first person
So-
who's like, okay, calm down.
Calm down. Yeah,
Right, like-
I've seen all of this. It's not a big
Yeah.
deal.
Yeah.
So it was interesting to see you guys actually try to show off, and then she just wasn't impressed
At all.
Yeah.
at all.
Yeah, that
She was
was,
just like,
Well,
okay,
well, that puts it more into a real.
Yeah.
I say real world. That puts us into a more actual D&D perspective.
Yeah, high fantasy. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Go
yeah,
ahead.
you have to find. You have to. I mean, even in like regular D&D, right? Like high level magic users, like Desiree or her father that was in the pillar, they're not common, right? So
Right.
people that wouldn't be impressed by, say, a fireball, aren't that common even in regular D&D. But that's who you interface with because you end up becoming powerful characters, right?
Right.
So that's
True.
kind of the way it goes.
Yep, yep.
So this is the first time you guys have actually found one,
I'm like, oh, that's cute.
and then it's interesting to see kind of the crestfallen whatever, and then you guys forced her to do magic for you guys, and teleporting you to the pillars instead of walking.
Yeah.
Her sister, yeah.
And that was probably more.
Requested.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was probably less
Heavily.
about our
Not-
characters wanting her to show us magic and more of us as players not wanting to have to do another travel episode to get somewhere.
Yeah.
And
I
we
mean,
were just like, wait, you can actually teleport us there? Okay. Woo,
Why
all
not,
right.
though?
Can you just, because that was the whole thing with Ruby. It was like, wait, you want us to go, can you just teleport us there? We actually, wait, like, do you need, like, you know, our players a little bit
Yeah.
are weary of having to take days and days
It's
of
the
travel
grind, man.
to get
Just tired-
somewhere.
It's tired of the
So
grind.
above table, do you guys think if you had walked, you would have had a random encounter and then the Yetis, or did the Yetis replace the random encounter? And I know
Probably-
that Chris has an
probably
answer
both.
to that.
I think they
but
were.
Probably
I think
both.
that they were.
Me
the
personally,
encounter.
random encounter, Yetis,
Oh.
I
or
think-
random Yetis.
Yeah.
I think
It
it would
could have been.
I think it would have been random first, then Yetis.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm with him.
But I am proud of Chris, our DM, for not just like, you know, just all right, fine,
Rolling
and
with
then
it.
being okay with whatever he had planned, getting put back in his pocket, and he's probably going to use it later.
Yeah, because
Oh, yeah.
it's easy to like stick with your guns and be like, no, I had an encounter. It's
Yeah.
happening. But honestly, like there was no reason not to. Like
Right.
Right.
the character
I mean, I think
has the
that's-
spell. So
I think that was like the first time you guys really pushed to do something besides what the DM sort of hooked you on, right?
Right.
You know, and it's been what, 28 episodes?
Yeah.
I mean, he's got
and
several
at,
hooks
at the
out
same
there,
time,
but-
have you DM'd, Chris?
yeah, he
Yeah.
DMs
Have you
constantly.
DM'd?
I'm currently in the past year.
Yeah,
Alex,
DM.
you've DM'd. Joey, you've DM'd. I've DM'd.
I know Neil has.
We've all
Been there, yeah,
DM'd
we've all been
before in our D&D careers.
Mhm.
So us kind of collectively as players deciding on that was saying
I'm like,
No,
Hey, Chris.
We know.
we don't want to do
Yeah.
we understand.
Oh.
What if he didn't?
What if is there any? There's no like FOMO about that. Like he could have had this really cool like enchanted blade or
Yeah.
whatever that like
There
had a
was
rift in
just-
it, but
there
it's like a
was-
magically like a fairy.
Yeah.
glitter
It's
blade
still there.
instead, you know?
If it's
Yeah.
important, I'm sure it'll come up again.
I would say for us, we knew what we wanted.
Yeah.
For Chris, our DM, I feel like he is DMing for a bunch of DMs,
It's tough.
which has got to be the shittiest
It's
thing.
really hard. Everyone, and we
It-
probably
it-
all DM very differently.
It
too.
has
Oh,
got.
I-
I do not envy his position at all.
Yeah.
Like me DMing for a bunch of new players, I love because I can just explore the
Do
game
whatever
with
you want,
them.
yeah.
I can enjoy it with them. Him DMing for a bunch of DMs has got to be miserable.
Oh, poor Chris.
But he's doing it so well.
Yeah, he's doing a great
I
job.
mean, like building the studio,
I
building
will
our
say
characters.
the Yetis did fall pretty quick, but that was
Frickin'
due to
poison.
some poison that was.
What's
low.
that about? Can we talk about that?
So I think
Right.
the issue with poison, right, from a
Shit,
mechanics
it's worse.
perspective, low level very powerful,
That's
high level not very powerful because the DC is so low.
One, and here's
Right.
the other thing too, Alex, is as far as the upside of us all being DMs, is that yes, we recognize that poison is very strong, but we're pretty good at separating us from our characters.
yeah.
Right?
Yeah, for
like
sure.
as every single one of us are DMs, we're not min-maxing. None of us are. Right?
I mean,
like
besides Chris Snow.
I did my character, but I'm playing him to Remdil being not
Yeah,
so
Remdil's made a
smart,
lot
not
of-
so
yeah, you might
questionable
be
decisions.
min-maxing in a way,
I'm trying to hit
but
hard.
at the same time, your character still has downside.
A
Yeah.
lot of
Your character has downside. My character has downside. Your character, he's a barbarian. You're like, oh, I hit hard,
Yeah, I mean,
but I'm dumb. You know what I
Right,
mean?
it's,
Like,
not, it's not like somebody took like some busted build of like polearm master with sentinel, and you know,
Right.
you control 30 feet wide in the battlefield and nothing can pass you, kind of
Yeah.
we're
kind of BS. Or
That
you know,
sounds fun.
sometimes I've seen where
right. It sounds fun.
I've done that before.
It wouldn't be
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah,
Let's
yeah.
just say
or
it's
then you
fun.
have like, you know, a summoner who does, you know, just screws complete with the action economy that I might have seen before, and then
I played a
ruins,
summoner back in the day.
ruins half of the encounters because it's just like, well, okay, he summoned 12 snakes,
Ugh.
and they all get one chance at doing whatever. So just roll 12 die,
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah, and then we sit
So-
here and
sit
just
here.
roll.
that's not interesting
It's effective,
for a video,
right?
yeah.
It's effective.
Absolutely not.
Right.
But after doing it a couple times, you're like, all right, you know, maybe I should make my character tunable around.
Well,
You
and
know?
you want a character with faults, right? Like, think of
Yeah, play
any
your strengths, play
think
your
of any
faults.
television show, movie, video game you've ever played. The character has faults.
Or weaknesses, yeah.
Yeah, faults or weaknesses, whatever you want to call it. That's what makes the story interesting.
For sure. Well, I mean, I think Edmund got a huge power gain when they leveled up to 4 right after the Yetis. You know, he's able to read that ancient runic language and whatever now, right? Took the little linguist feat. And
Feats. Feats are big.
feats are
in
big.
this
Yeah.
game.
Well, and obviously anybody who's played D&D before or watching,
I think DMB is like,
It's a different
it's
thing.
a copyrighted thing.
yeah, I
Don't do
think
that.
somebody cut that.
Yeah.
Edit it out, edit it out.
One thing about D&D at level 4 is that you can take a feat or you take an ability score increase. So 99% of people just max their next stat.
Yep.
Right? Like, if you've ever played D&D, you say, hey, wisdom's my main stat, strength's my main stat, intelligence is my main stat, +2. Right? Like, I want to make my guy stronger.
I don't think any of us did that.
No.
I don't think any of us did
No, I
that.
think
right?
for
Like,
me-
like the whole idea of this campaign is we want to role play it to the max. So I thought it would be cool, and I talked to our DM about this, Chris, because I was deciphering the pillars,
Mhm.
and it was language I didn't understand, and we were kind of scratching it on paper,
Yeah.
and overnight, I understood what it meant. Right? You're like, how is
Yeah.
that? It's magic. You
Right.
know, you were as proximity, it was whatever.
Yep.
But that was me taking the linguist feat.
Sure.
I think we were all pretty conscious of the feats that we took and how it would like because
How it would
depending
affect the story.
the story and what our character would most likely want to do or not. I don't know if the audience knows everyone's feat that they've taken, if they've revealed themselves or not.
This
We
point
didn't
in
say it
episode,
out loud, yeah.
That would be good.
I think
They
They
won't
didn't
know
level up.
until
But they will.
like
yeah.
episode 32. for me.
Everyone, they'll
Yeah.
see what everyone's feat is. Okay.
at this point, what the viewers have know, Domik has 2, and I don't think I've used either of them yet.
You haven't used either of them.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, some of my favorite feats are the ones that are, you get something and then an ability score +1.
Yeah, the half feats.
The half feat, that's some of my
I don't
favorites.
think he does half feats.
Most of them, there's some of them are in the handbook.
Some are in the handbook. Yeah.
There's a lot in.
So,
couple
like
some
for
of them.
example, like you do Elven Accuracy, which gives you a reroll on a Dex attack roll, right?
Oh, I see.
But then you get a +1 at Dex too.
Right.
You know, so
Yeah,
actually,
you get a little something, you get a little something else.
yeah,
It's
a
like
little bit of both.
It's a weaker feat, but you get a little,
Yeah.
little boost.
A little boost.
But yeah.
So, but for mine, which was specifically is what you were talking about, was linguist, which is how Edmund suddenly understood the language that has yet to be said out loud on the videos.
Correct.
I don't even think you guys.
haven't said it out loud.
I don't
No
even.
idea.
We're like 6 or 7 episodes ahead. By the way, fans, they still don't know the language that I can read.
Not a clue.
Yeah.
But I took that as my linguist feat. Linguist, I think, is you learn 2 additional languages.
Mhm.
I just took this language. Like it was, I studied it so for long on the pillars. I was close to magic.
Yeah.
I've studied so much.
Makes sense with the character.
Being
I-
close to the pillars
makes
is
sense
a
with
huge...
I woke up and just understood the language of the pillars because of some sort of siphoning, maybe. You know, you guys will figure that out later.
Yeah.
But
Hopefully.
it's a language that is not PHB or
Right.
Tasha's
Sure.
Custom.
or
It's a-
something.
yeah, it's a homebrew.
It's a
Yeah, yeah.
custom language to the
It's a
DM.
setting language.
Right.
Yeah, so to wrap up the narrative, at least for the episodes we're talking about, you guys end by first finding the bounty book on Ruby's ship, which has its own shenanigans.
A little bit shenanigans.
And
Gotta keep it
then you end up scrying on Razim and sending Kapoor after him to track him
Alright.
down. And then at the end of the episode, it's like, well, she found him and you sent her off, right? To go find him and bring him
really
back.
fast. She found it so
Yeah,
fast.
super fast. So,
She's so much better than us.
yeah, that'll be interesting to see coming up for the viewers at least. I think every table knows what happened already, but
What are you talking about?
Who?
I don't know.
Remdil has no clue.
but this is also the episode where Jethro decides to get a little more direct about his goal of stealing souls in a jar, right?
Jethro gonna Jethro.
Oh yeah, he didn't hide it this
And
time.
he's not hiding it this time. He
Yeah.
went to the drug dealer. He found his mark. He hoodwinked him and then stole their soul.
Yeah.
And was caught, but luckily disguised, right?
What?
Yeah.
We
Close your ears.
kind of saw his
Subject.
Yeah, that's
like
that was a bit of a one-on-one.
We saw him on the pirate ship, kind of fucking with people.
Yeah,
And
but
we
I
were
don't
like,
think at that
what,
point we
what
saw
that's
the-
kind of interesting, but we couldn't quite see. Now it is pretty clear.
very obvious.
And I think it's important, well, for my character, who has never done any kind of magic before, you know, up to this point, has kind of been open about how, like, you know, magic is the issue, it's the problem here, we got to fix it. Hopefully it all just goes away, because I want things to go back to the way they were before. And then in that last Yeti battle, right before, you know, the end of the plot that this covers, we now see everyone
Everyone's
else
doing
is doing magic.
Yep, including
We've got
I
Irene,
think
the
we've-
monk, doing magic.
we've got hints at what Remdil and Jethro talked about. I'm not
Hints.
sure that.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
hints of what deal I made. I
Yeah.
didn't show anything yet.
Yeah, but you know, at that point, you know, it's like the odd man out, and it's like now I'm really in it now, and like I said before in this interview, you know, you can only bury your head in the sand for so long until you eventually, you know, say, all right, this is the way things are right now. I'm not happy about it, but we're gonna keep moving, and we'll see what happens with Bolgram after that.
For sure. So, how many souls do you guys think Jethro actually needs to complete his?
So
quest?
Jethro's not actually here.
Yeah, he's
Yeah,
not
he's
here.
not actually here.
That's
I'm just saying
important to
above
know.
table, like
The speculation.
how many souls? Like, is it
How
going
many
to be?
souls?
Wait, at this point, right?
At this
It's
point,
my
At this
sword.
point of what the
It-
interview knows.
Right. So, how many does he have?
no idea.
So what's
Right.
the last episode? The last
Episode is he kills the druggie.
He's probably
That
only
was
got
a
like 2 or
pick-off.
3.
I would say like 5.
How many do you think he needs to finish his?
I have no
He
idea.
might not
I
even
have
know.
no idea what the pact is. I have no idea what.
Yeah, none
any
of us
that
are
is.
privy to that information.
Like
Gonna stay out of this one.
I'm assuming as a real person, not a character. I assume he probably needs 100 to be important.
Yeah.
So I know we're all above table, but I will say in game, what is terrifying is I think we're just starting to get enough information to connect what's going on with Jethro. But in all of our zeros, he talked with so many people that we just never saw again because we just moved towns. Like every time we went to a new town, he had a group of people around him.
But was he killing every time?
I don't know. That's what I'm saying. He would like.
We weren't with him all the time.
Yeah.
That's the crazy part.
So it's like we don't know anything.
You know, is he going to get to level 10 and be like, hey guys, I got to go for a couple weeks, and then just starts hopping around? And...
What if he gets to level like 6 and he's like, oh, by the way, I now have 1,000 souls. And you're like, we've
what?
seen you killed 6 people.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, I'm at
Don't worry about
1,000.
And the thing is, like, Jethro is like so much in your face that when he just walks away, you're like, thank God Jethro's not here anymore.
I want to
So it's
touch
like-
on something because we have we're lucky, I guess, in some ways that we don't actually have those folks who play the characters in the room, so we can openly discuss this without any kind of
Gossip?
bias.
Gossip is the word you're looking for.
So looking for bot gossip. So Irene and Jethro started off butting heads. Irene was kind of his check and balance early in the game, kind of
Now
like
they're
keeping
the
an
most
eye on him.
evil.
Irene is now part of a mercenary guild. Jethro and she's starting to.
I think sketchy
I think.
works.
Well, I think Jethro might actually be evil. I think Arena is a little more like Machiavellian.
Irene and Jethro are the most sketchy.
I mean, she's
Definitely
letting
sketchy.
things slide that she before was like, I got my eye on you, like you're not getting away with anything. So I don't know if that relationship is changing or whatnot, but it's interesting as players at the table to see that change.
Oh, yeah.
If
They're
we had left
connecting.
Irene with if we had left Irene with Jethro a few episodes ago, we would not worry. We'd be like, oh, she'll keep him in line.
They'd be like, she keep him in line. No, they're
Now.
connecting now.
Yeah.
They are on kind of the same page character-wise now.
Yeah, which is a little bit.
I
a little
don't
bit
trust. I don't trust them as much as I would trust Domik with either of them.
And the other thing about that for me is that you've got Jethro there who needs souls, right? And you've got Arena here who needs to impress Ruby to continue her training or whatever,
All
right? And so then you've got the bounty book as well. So like, okay, well, who's got some dead or alive bounties here? And then you get the bounty money, you get to impress Ruby, and Jethro gets the soul.
Oof. You shouldn't have.
Yikes. Why did you bring that up?
Why did you say that?
Oh, no!
Speaking it into existence. So now you got a
Things I
buddy
hadn't
cop thing with
considered.
Arena and Jethro, and
Yep.
they're going to be...
I hadn't even thought of that.
Oh,
I
my
literally
God.
had never thought of
Had
that
not
until
crossed my
this
mind.
moment.
Oh my goodness.
And we're episodes ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They could have been doing this whole time.
Just saying.
Oh, no.
Yeah, and one other mechanic that we do use at this table a lot is that you'll catch it if you're watching the episodes. Is
The note
occasionally
cards.
folks will write
Notes.
notes
Uh-huh. I
to
do
a
like the
player,
physical
and
notes.
they'll pass it over, and even with the DM sometimes. And so that's another way where we don't all actually physically have to get out of the room, but things can be said between characters that we don't know about. I like it.
Oh yeah, me too.
It's fun. And it's just another layer of information.
Like, we all have phones. You could just text, but it feels more fun to
Yeah,
do it. on
Yeah.
paper.
Yeah.
That is
It's nice to have the phone.
It's like you
phones
know
away.
something's being said, but you don't know it.
right.
Yeah,
All,
you see
all
the
the other
physical class.
characters
It's
see you pass, right? Like so I write something to Jethro and I go like this, and then I look at everybody.
Yeah, I'm just like,
What's up? What's up?
Hello, clueless. And then he
no clue what's happening.
and the camera angles will switch to whoever's talking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So sometimes you don't actually
see
see us pass. But it is important to note that there are private conversations going around,
It's
even when the camera is not on
Yeah.
whoever it may be on.
It's infuriating playing a honest character that doesn't have much secrets.
Right.
I can't do anything to retaliate.
All right, well, guys, thank you so much for joining me for the Above Table number 6. I think it's our best one yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was fun.
Great conversation. Always fun talking to you guys. For starters, if any of the fans out there have questions, please post them to YouTube or Twitter or Instagram or whatever. It's a lot better than me just coming up with random bullshit to talk about, to be honest. So if you guys got questions for any of the characters,
You need some help with content too.
yeah, I know everyone needs help with content. So, crowdsource it, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And again, thank you guys for joining us, and we'll see you next time on Above Table number 7.
You got some bangers coming out.
Thanks for watching that, viewers. If you like this episode, please like the video and subscribe to our channel. And ring that notification bell so you get notified every time we post new content. If you want to know more about this series, the campaign is on this box right here, and you can follow our latest interview, which describes each character's backstory and their background information over here.